Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the Nerd Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And after I saw the fourth episode of The Acolyte, uh, I could not help but think to myself, can I do a better job with The Acolyte? So why not? Why not make a fan fiction rewrite? So we're gonna be starting off with episode one. I guess an okay episode, not really. I don't know. But what weirdest thing ever is at the end where you have the bad guy telling May all the philosophical stuff of how to destroy the Jedi and what have you, and he says that steel or laser are no threat to them, to the Jedi. You can't kill them with a weapon, essentially. You can't kill them with steel or a laser. At the end of the episode that began with a fight where May killed a Jedi with a dagger made out of not steel, apparently, something else, wood maybe. Uh, I don't know. This is the same episode. It starts with a fight where May kills a Jedi with a dagger. And at the end of the episode, the bad guy tells May that she can't kill a Jedi with a weapon, not with steel or laser. I mean, why didn't May just raise her hand and said, "Pardon me, excuse me, but I kind of did." So that should make you very impressed, right? That I managed to kill a Jedi with a steel weapon. But no, uh, yeah, this show has issues. Anyway, moving on to the fan fiction bit. So, The Acolyte, a fan fiction rewrite, episode 1. Let's get into it. And we begin with chapter 1, Indara and May. So, our Jedi Knight or Jedi Master Indara is moving through a small frontier town, a small spaceport in an obscure part of the Republic. And she meets up with a contact, an informant that she appears to be familiar with, and they have worked together before, we learn from their interaction. And her friend tells her where she can find an individual that claims she can sell a lightsaber for the right price. And it's clear that the informant here has reached out to Indara to tell her that this is going on, and Indara is here to investigate this situation where someone may be trying to sell a lightsaber. So Indara moves through the town and eventually enters an abandoned warehouse, industrial site kind of thing location. And as she's searching through the building, she is eventually attacked by a masked assassin. Dun dun dun, who could it be? And this assassin tries to kill Indara. And you get, you can have the type of fight that we saw in the actual episode. The kung fu action kind of took me out of the moment, but people seem to enjoy it overall, so why not keep it in? And as the fight progresses, we learn that the assassin appears to have force powers. So not just your average assassin, in other words. And during the fight, Indara manages to reveal the assassin's face, along with a mark that Indara recognizes from her past. It's the mark on May's forehead. And Indara deactivates her lightsaber and returns it to her belt and steps away from May. And the two women share a brief moment where they talk, and it becomes apparent that the assassin clearly hates Indara, and Indara, she knows why, because she remembers where this girl comes from back in the day. At this point, Indara's friend arrives and enters the scene with a blaster. Uh, there's some scuffle maybe. In the end, the assassin May throws 3 to 4 daggers in quick succession at this new arrival, and Indara reaches out with both hands to stop them all from hitting her friend. And this is when the assassin is quick to react and reaches out towards Indara and twists her hand. The assassin maid, she makes a quick twist of her hand, and by so doing she activates Indara's lightsaber and spins it around, essentially cutting Indara in half by the waist. And Indara drops to the floor. May turns to Indara's friend, and before the friend can fire his blaster, the assassin, May, grabs him with a force choke and slowly kills him. The assassin then steps over the remains of Indara and walks away while putting on a mask and hood to obscure herself as she leaves the scene. Chapter 2: Osha, a failed Padawan. Osha, the splitting image of the assassin that killed Indara, works in a small Jedi temple on some obscure planet or moon that is located on top of a kyber crystal cave. She is an administrative duty role, I can imagine, and will learn from banter with her friends who also work here that they used to be Padawans, but they failed somehow in their training, but they still serve the Jedi Order. Osha, however, is a special case because she chose to end her training, unlike the others who failed in becoming Jedi Knights. So, having learned a bit about who Osha is and where she came from within the Order, eventually a Jedi Knight arrives with a young child. The child enters the cave and comes out in the end with a kyber crystal after some time. The child uses some tools to get the crystal into the right size to fit in a lightsaber. And then the Jedi and his young apprentice leave. Osha is the one who ritually, more or less, sweeps up the dust from the kyber crystal and puts it in a container and cleans the floor. But Osha has a dark streak. She does not return the dust to the cave. Instead, she enters the shadier part of the small community and sells the dust to a Neimoidian smuggler. He asks her what she will do with all the credits she's earned over the years, since she has no need of them as part of the Jedi Order. Osha explains she doesn't plan to stay with the Order for the rest of her life. Chapter 3: Investigating Indara's Death. At the location where Indara was killed, 2 Jedi arrived to investigate. Local law enforcers help them and explain that the lightsaber is missing. The Jedi Knight, Jord Fandar, concludes that Indara has been struck down by a lightsaber and that the alien has had his neck broken. Jord's Padawan relies on her nose to sniff out blood splatter that she says does not smell like Indara's blood, and she takes a sample of it. Jord is impressed by her skills. Indara's remains are brought onto Jord's ship. They scan the blood sample and realize that not only does it have an above average midichlorian count, it also is registered in the Jedi archives. Chapter 4: Saul and his Padawan. Jedi Knight Saul teaches younglings on Coruscant when a Jedi Master, Vernestra, visits him. She informs Saul that his old Padawan, Osha, is a suspect for murdering Jedi Knight Indara. Her blood was found at the scene of the crime. Saul does not believe it. Vernestra says that the investigators are on their way to try and locate Osha. Saul asks permission to join the investigation and to talk with Osha himself. Vernestra allows Saul to do this, but warns him. The path Saul has chosen is veiled in mist. If Osha is guilty, Saul must beware that she could have fallen to the dark side. Chapter 5: The Jedi Confront Osha. At the Kyber Temple, Jord seeks out Osha. They knew each other as younglings and Padawans, but when Osha gave up on her training, Jord continued and is now a Jedi Knight with his own Padawan. Jord explains the situation eventually. Osha's blood was found where Indara was murdered. Osha is under arrest, and Jord will try and piece together her movements and whereabouts the last couple of days. He hopes she will cooperate, for her own sake. Osha strongly argues her innocence, but has no choice but to accept house arrest for now. Jord spends time with Osha's friends and finds out that Osha often leaves the compound after dark, even though they are not allowed to do so. Jord and his Padawan discuss the evidence. With a private ship and not traveling with a passenger transport, you could reach the planet where Indara was murdered in 8 hours. 6 hours with a good enough ship if you take a shortcut across the parsecs. Osha leaves the compound at 9 and has returned by 7 the next day. That is 11 hours. It is almost enough time to travel to the next sector and find the time to assassinate a Jedi. Jord realizes that Osha must know someone who does not travel along established hyperspace routes. Osha is brought before Jord and the Padawan. They have the Neimoidian smuggler here as well. Jord now knows that Osha is selling kyber powder in exchange for credits instead of returning the powder to the cave. The Neimoidian has a ship that can turn off its transponder so it cannot be tracked along the hyperspace lanes, and it is upgraded to be faster than its original design. Jord places Osha and the Neimoidian and his crew under arrest and will bring them to Coruscant for further questioning. Osha argues her innocence. The Neimoidian wants to barter to get a better deal. He offers to tell the Jedi that he took Osha off-world if they drop some of the charges against him. Osha panics, throws the Neimoidian at the Jedi, and flees. Osha is chased by Jord's Padawan but outsmarts her. Osha gets to the Neimoidian's ship and convinces the crew to escape with her to avoid the Jedi, who have come to arrest them all for the kyber dust smuggling. They all flee the planet on the smuggler's ship. Jord and the Padawan intercepts the smugglers in space and disables the engines, after which the Jedi board the vessel. The smugglers stand no chance, but Osha is desperate and she climbs into an escape pod and abandons the ship. Osha tries to hide on the planet, or the moon, or wherever she's landing, leaving the escape pod behind. Jord and his Padawan land not long after, but before they can move on to track down Osha, another Jedi ship lands. It is Saul and his young Padawan. Saul explains that he has been sent to help Jord to bring in Osha so that they can find out who killed Indara. Jord explains what has happened, and to his mind it is clear that Osha is guilty, something that Saul finds hard to accept. When the Jedi do catch up with Osha, she's close to a cliff and trapped. She has no way to go. Osha is very clear. She says she did not kill Indara. Saul can feel her honesty. There is no conflict within her, but she is afraid. It is that fear that Jord senses. Osha explains she fears being forced into exile, having gone against the Jedi rules and creed, forced to live in exile on a forgotten moon. Saul says she is not powerful enough to warrant exile. He asks her to join him so that they can prove her innocence together. On Saul's ship, Osha is now resting. Saul hands Jord a small device, a blood sample, and Jord scans the sample. At first he sighs and shrugs. The blood matches the blood from the scene of Indara's murder. But then Jord turns to Saul. The midichlorian count is not the same. It is not Osha's blood that was found next to Indara. Saul turns serious. There can only be one explanation. When Saul first met Osha, she had a twin sister. They were both strong in the Force, but too old to join the Jedi Order. But the mission to the village did not go as planned. There was a fire. People died, and Osha's sister died. Or so everyone thought. Saul tells Jord that Indara was there when the fire broke out, as was Saul. They had visited the village to see if any children had a connection with the Force. Afterwards, Saul brought Osha back to Coruscant to be trained as a Jedi. Yord tries to understand what is going on. He accepts that Osha's sister is more than likely behind the murder of Indara, but that does not mean that Osha is not involved. Sol is not worried about Osha. He, on the other hand, struggles with how Indara was struck down with her own lightsaber. Osha and May were strong with the Force, but could May really be that strong? Yord wonders if May was alone. Maybe someone else killed Indara. Sol concludes that if May is capable of killing Indara, someone has trained her. Or that someone was responsible for Indara's death. Either way, May follows a master. Chapter 6: The Master. May lands her ship on a planet close to an ocean. She follows the shoreline and approaches a dark figure. Falling to her knee, she informs the figure that she has succeeded. Indara is dead. She was killed with her own lightsaber. The dark figure responds that he is impressed. He says that May's hatred has made her powerful, more powerful than any Jedi. With determination and resolve, she will find the strength to kill all of her enemies, to bend the Force to her will, to punish all who would stand against her. The dark figure slowly turns to look at May over his shoulder and tells her, "I'm looking forward to completing your training, Acolyte." And there you have it, the end of episode 1 according to my fan fiction rewrite. Just the pure basics, a guideline for where the episode is going and how to expand on it with conversations, dialogue, action, and what have you. And I kind of think it makes sense. More sense than what we got in the actual episode, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, tell me what you think. Agree, disagree? Did I do a better job? Did I do a worse job? Were the parts that were okay and some parts that maybe not were okay? Let me know what you think. And that's gonna have to be it. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, why not leave a comment, maybe even subscribe. Stick around for the next video that will be episode 2 of this fan fiction rewrite. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, that's it. Bye.